So according to the instructions in the manual, we now start to switch on the equipment. The first to go on is the HDMI monitor. There's the AC outlet, and we switch on the power to the monitor. The second to go on is the Raspberry Pi wall wart. And here I'm just checking that the red light inside the Raspberry Pi has come on, as indeed it has. And the green light is flashing. And now we go through the Linux type boot up sequence. This is the Debian package running on the Raspberry Pi. That's all fine so far. And now I switch on the third, which is the 12 volt power supply for the receiver. And so this is the 12 volt power supply for the receiver, and we have both the orange and the green lights on the receiver. And then on the GPS interface box, we see here that the red light is blinking steadily, indicating information coming from the GPS receiver over here. So now we have booted up into the desktop environment. I'll run through the system as if we've done all of the checks and run it operationally. We open up ALSA Mixer in this window, which controls the sound card. Make it a little smaller. Park it on the right hand side. F6 enables us to select which sound card. We select one, which is the USB audio device, and we press F4, which lets us control the gain of the audio input. We open up another window, terminal window here, and start up the main Whisper program, WSJTX. This throws up some warning errors invariably when it starts up. There are times when it will completely hang up at this starting point. It hasn't done so now, and we start listening on Whisper, and it has automatically increased the gain on the audio side, so I'm going to bring that down by clicking in the window and using the down arrow to bring it down to about 15, as I really want this indicator here, which is the signal level input, to read about 20 dB. This is the main Whisper window, which shows decoded information from stations, which is described fully in the user notes. And this window here is the real-time waterfall display with audio frequency on the x-axis, and scrolls down with the colours indicating the signal strength. In the UK, on a summer afternoon, 10 megahertz is really fairly noisy and few stations get through. So I'm not too disappointed that right now that there are no indications of any stations. But we'll see in the next 2-minute window. Keeping time is important, as described in the handbook, and so here is the Raspberry Pi automatically connects to a network time server. So at the end of this 2-minute interval, at the even minute boundary, the next Whisper reception period starts, and I still can't see evidence of a signal here. So, but the Whisper program is running. The next thing to do is to bring up yet another window and start up the mobile Whisper script /mobile_whisper.sh, all described in the handbook. And this is needed because rather than a static location, which is where the Whisper program has been designed to be used, we'll be running this on a ship, a moving platform, and so we need to update location. and the only way to do that with the current program is to stop and then restart the main WSJTX program, which is done automatically in this script based on the information from the GPS. So there we are, about 30 seconds after starting it. Just to check out, when you first run it, it will change its position automatically and then come up with a new location. So the GPS location, grid square, the Maidenhead grid square for Southampton in the UK, IO90. It's got a new location up there. That's stored in a file, and the Whisper program is automatically restarted. And if the position doesn't change within that grid square, which is 1 degree of latitude by 2 degrees of longitude, we'll just have a message called same location come up on this window. We're about to start another 2-minute boundary, and this is a cumulative signal graph. It's sometimes easy to spot a signal quickly on this graph rather than on the main waterfall. If there is some signals, it does not look hopeful. We'll come back and we'll look at this again when there are some signals to show. Well, good morning. The last video clip closed with an explanation of the Whisper operating software, but then when we came to have a look at the data on the screen, then it was absent. And that's because that day when I looked up, there was a geomagnetic storm that was affecting high-frequency radio propagation. So today we've got some signals here present on the display. So let's go through that. It's just starting a 2-minute interval. So this counter here is the number of seconds into a 2-minute interval. It's currently 10 seconds out of 120. So we've just started an interval. So let's have a first look at this upper right-hand display, which is a waterfall. So we've got audio frequency along the x-axis, and the signals fall down in time. So the latest line is up at the top and then it falls down to the bottom, and there's about 5 minutes displayed at any one time. And beneath that we have a signal strength graph, which is the cumulative average over a 2-minute window. So here we can see a really big signal, but this is outside the Whisper bandwidth of 1400 to 1600 Hertz. So this is a non-Whisper signal that's not going to interfere with us. But between 1400 and 1600s, there's a number of signals present. These are shown as vertical lines, and with the colour indicating the strength, going from green through yellow to orange and red being the strongest. So signals fade in and out, so this signal, which was rather weak, is now becoming stronger. If there is no drift on the Whisper signals, then they will be exactly vertical lines, but here's a good example of a signal with a slight slope. So this station's transmitter is drifting, and that may or may not decode. If the drift is too great, it won't decode. We'll have a look at that in a moment. But this signal is now consistently quite strong, and this signal, for example, has peaked up a little bit in the centre. Right, what we've just missed was the decodes of those signals. So at the end of the 2-minute interval, the decode light came on in the middle of this panel, which is towards the centre, and in this left-hand text panel for 0720 UTC, then 3 signals were decoded at 147, which means 1447, so that was this signal. This drifting signal was decoded from a Dutch station, and the drift is shown here at -4 Hertz per minute. Then the next signal that was decoded was up at 94, 1494, so this one was decoded. This is towards the center of the whisper band. One signal was not decoded, and that was from Belgium. And then the strongest signal was from a Swedish station at a distance of 1,500 kilometers. And so we now have we're into the next 2-minute interval, and there's another station transmitting on much the same frequency as the Swedish station, but now there is only one during this 2-minute interval. And that's typical of whisper. Sometimes you'll have several stations within a particular 2-minute window. Stations generally operate with a random transmission schedule and may only transmit for one 2-minute interval out of 10 minutes to avoid congestion and overlapping with other stations. So now this is just about to finish. Here the decode comes on in blue, and after a few seconds then we have the data coming up in the left-hand text window, and indeed that station was from Germany at a distance of almost 900 kilometers. On the left, after the time, is shown the signal strength, minus 24 dB, and that is signal to noise ratio in a 2.5 kilohertz bandwidth, although these whisper signals themselves are only 6 hertz wide. And at this next 2-minute interval now, it looks as if we've got 2 stations present, and they're fairly weak, but they're easily seen on the display, and especially on this cumulative graph, which shows the average over the 2-minute interval, and this non-whisper signal out of the band. And the rest of the band, as you can see at the moment, is pretty low noise. There's not much extraneous noise at this particular time this morning. And if we go back in the over the previous hour on this text display, so we received signals from Italy at 1,000 kilometers, Sweden again, two stations, 1,500 kilometers. And if I click on this window and then scroll up a little bit further, going back into the middle of the night, so we have K3XR, that's a station from east coast of the United States at 5,800 kilometers, station from Greece, 2,400 kilometers there, for instance, and earlier a station from Canada at 5,200 kilometers. And so we've just had another decode, so we can scroll down to the bottom, and that was German station at 0722. That was just decoded. 0724, no stations were decoded. So that although those two came in, there wasn't sufficient data to do a full decode. Indeed, both of those stations faded out to nothing. What you may see from time to time are peaks at exact multiples of 100 Hertz here on the display. That's due to the remainder of any hum on the audio signal, but indeed they are very, very low indeed here, and not an issue at all. It looks as if there's a signal up here. We'll just watch this one, and then that's it for the demonstration. And that signal's fading in and out. That's really at the limit of what can be decoded. And just for a few seconds the signal level comes up. There's a bright spot of red there, but it's really only for a few seconds. So that's an explanation of the whisper signals as seen on the display and in the text panel.